I wonder actually how many people have sex in like uncompleted homes, right? Like
I'm sure it's a fetish of people's. Like, who wouldn't? Then they
uh,
could drive 5 years later, drive down the street. Oh yeah, done it there, done it there, done it there, done it there.
is that what you thought about? I don't know. I was talking about in the actual home that they purchased, and if they walk
Oh
through it and they're
no,
other
no,
people's homes.
I meant more in line with my christening other people's homes. Good day, everybody. Welcome. K2 Confidential, episode 136.
Six.
I had to think about that for a moment. I did not want to mess it up, and I think I got it right. How's it going, Ariel?
Going pretty good. Going pretty good. So for those of you that watched episode 135, you'll notice that I'm still in the same shirt.
We're banging off two today.
Yep. We definitely had a comment that came up, and definitely had a comment that came up. I'm a little brain dead now, but had a comment on Facebook. Somebody sent us a message and said, "Hey Ariel, should I get a home inspection on our new home specifically at the PDI or before closing?"
Right.
That was the question.
Well, that's another thing is during COVID, I'm curious. I wonder if have they been doing PDIs throughout the whole process, like a normal physical in-person walkthrough?
Virtual, much like we've been doing. So it's a virtual walkthrough. And I'm not sure, but a couple of my clients were able to, I don't know if they did that legitimately with the builder or just snuck in, but they visited the property without a builder representative so they could physically see it with their own eyes, which I would want to do too, right?
I imagine it was not authorized.
Probably not.
Yeah. But who doesn't do that? Everybody goes. I was walking through your house, everybody's house when ours were being built.
I know. When my house was being built.
I christened your bedroom.
Oh, God, don't tell me that. Did you really?
No, I did not.
I wonder actually how many people have sex in like uncompleted homes, right? Like
I'm sure it's a fetish of people's. Like, who wouldn't? Then they could drive 5 years later, drive down the street. Oh yeah, done it there, done it there, done it there, done it there.
Is that what you thought about? I don't know. I was talking about in the actual home that they purchased, and if they walk through it and they're other people's homes.
I meant more in line with my christening other people's homes.
So it wasn't mine.
We've talked about.
I'm going to talk to your wife about this.
We've talked about in the past. Oh, she'd be down for it. We've talked about in the past where I can't remember exactly how the conversation came up, but it was about how construction workers are taking a dump in the toilets of these new homes.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's great you get a new toilet, but how many construction workers have made a poo poo in your toilet before you did?
Yeah,
and then you see
true words of a father with little boys.
I got two 4-year-old boys. Leave me alone. And I'm trying not to swear as much on the podcast. You know, there's people out there that get offended by that shit.
Very nice.
Then you get these stories about. I won't mention any names, but contractors inviting escorts.
Oh, the strippers.
Yeah.
Or whatever. That was in Milton a few weeks. I don't remember how many weeks back that was.
Maybe a month and a half ago or so now, 2 months ago.
The question is, why would they record it?
Yeah, somebody in the house. So the story goes, for those of you that haven't heard, there were, I don't know, 7 or 8 construction workers in this house it was framed, but there were no floors in. I don't even think there was drywall on the walls yet. So fully framed. And they were there working. And one of them, I guess, hired this escort who was stripping for them and doing,
who knows what.
Not naughty things, and they were drinking some vodka, and one of the guys was stupid enough. Well, they're all stupid, but one of them was actually recording it on his camera and then somehow it ended up on Reddit, and from there it just took off and exploded. So
Yeah.
so your story about, breaking in people's homes, whatever you called it, doesn't come as a surprise. But um, a funny story is actually you talking about my master bedroom. I remember when and walking through my house when it was being built. There was a period of time when my house was being built that I wasn't in town and I was in Florida at my condo, and and your wife sent me a text message, and she's like, "Didn't you pay to have a glass shower?"
Oh
And
yeah.
you remember that? And I said,
Yeah.
yeah. My master shower is what they call a super shower or whatever, and it's supposed to be all glass or on the one side. And she goes, "Well, I think you might want to call them because you have a wall and just an opening for a door." And I said, "What?" And she sent me a picture. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So yeah, a lot of people on the construction sites walking through there, even though you shouldn't, and it's a huge liability for the builders. But so the question was from my client, actually not a client, somebody that's on one of our Facebook groups in one of the newer developments in Milton. And the question was, should we have a home inspection done prior to closing? And I've had the question also, should we have it done for our 30-day warranty, 30-day tearing on warranty? You didn't have one done when you got your home, but we had just, when we got these homes, we were just finishing our real estate
We hadn't even
licensing.
transitioned. We
Yeah,
hadn't even done a deal.
right, right. We hadn't done a deal at that point. So we didn't have the experience, the knowledge, and we were still young. We were in our, mid late 20s, like late 20s. Um, I had one done by an inspector that was dubbed as the pro in new home inspections. That's what he specializes, still does it,
Right.
in. And I said, well, I don't know anything about construction. I had worked construction in the summers with my father and during high school, but I mean, I was like carrying people's tools around, not actually doing work. So
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know I didn't know anything about the process, about building code and all of that. So I had one done, and it cost, I don't remember what it was at the time, $400 or $500, which is pretty well on par of what it would be today, depending on the size of the home. And what was interesting to me and why so yes, I recommend you get it done. Um, if I was buying a new home myself, even now, after 10 years of buying and selling many, 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 many homes, not only personally, but with our clients and whatever, with our whole team, I would still have one done. And the reason is you get a second set of eyes, you get a professional that understands code, that understands all of the components or most of the components of the home. They will go up into the attic, have a look at your insulation, have a look at your foundation, have a look at the windows, the doors. Um, are your receptacles working? Are they in the right place? Are things being vented properly? Are they actually working? Like there's a lot of components to the house. So even though it's empty and it's new, the challenge is when they're building your home, the same contractors are building many other homes. And there are deadlines to all these homes. And sometimes these deadlines, this fly, did you see it just
I just
zoomed?
saw it right now. Yeah.
And um, the issue is when these deadlines get compressed or pushed back or under duress, things can get rushed and things can get missed. And sometimes your home might be built by somebody that was in your home doing work while drinking vodka and entertaining escorts. So you
We
never
never
know what's
know. Well, and look at
it.
the cost of the service relative to what the investment.
Yeah, you right now, if you're buying a resale home, it's much. less likely right now that you will be able to have the home inspected prior to purchase. But on a new home, you've got that 30-day window. Ideally, you can do it during a PDI. A lot of builders don't like an inspector going during PDI. I did mine during that 30-day window. And in that 30-day window, the builders will go back and fix things they're supposed to. I've heard a lot of horror stories out there, depending on the builder. But you send in the 30-day form, and any deficiencies get corrected during that time
Well, and
frame.
that's a pretty comprehensive coverage too during that period. So
Yeah. And deficiencies, I mean, I remember walking into one house, and because the client called me, one of our clients, and she said, "You got to come see this." I said, "Okay." And she said, "Just come and see it." They had paid for the stairs to match the floors
oh,
on the main
that's a
floor.
common problem.
I'm telling you, man, it was like comparing oak and cherry. They were so different, and she was livid because they paid like $3,500 to
Yeah.
upgrade to get a certain type of stair and a certain type of floors to make them match. They weren't matching. So some stuff like that, obviously, you don't need a home inspector. You can see with your eyes.
Yeah. But you know what's another thing? And some people are maybe they don't know what is okay to ask for, or they're afraid to ask for something to be done. So having a
Right.
third party get involved
Or they're being
eliminates that.
they're being nitpicky
Right.
and whatever. No, most home inspectors that do the new home inspections will actually help you complete that document, complete the form, or give you a point form list and say, put everything in there. Just put it
Yeah.
all in there. And whether the builder thinks you're crazy and nitpicky or not, you deserve it. You've paid for it. It's the only time you're going to have that opportunity. It's a brand new home. Why not get everything perfect or as close to perfect as you can from the onset?
Yeah.
And not have any issues down the road. You know, one of the handy things I think is when the home is scanned with infrared, it'll tell you, well, you can check on moisture, right? And that's hard to determine in the onset and the early going because concrete holds, and even bricks, they hold moisture. So when the home is just built, it's always damp and humid and there's moisture in the walls. That's why they tell you get a dehumidifier for the first 6 months to a year to suck that moisture out.
Well, and I imagine most of the cracks aren't going to form immediately. You have to go through a few seasons to see
Exactly.
that.
And some shifting, right? The home is going to shift, it's going to settle.
Yeah.
So those kind of things won't be apparent or might not happen until later on. But with the infrared, it'll tell you if there was proper insulation between the walls and in your attic.
Well, that was something
And
on your list, right?
absolutely. And it's something that I wouldn't have been able to identify even by going up into the attic. Because when people say, "Oh, yeah, I've gone up into my attic," you know what that means. You're literally doing one of these and just
Well, and
popping
they
your
don't
head up.
know to measure the depth of it or what the
Right.
requirements are.
Right. And the inspector told me, he said, everything looks fine, except in your front room, which happens to be the room above the garage. So naturally, in the wintertime, that room is going to be colder.
Yeah.
Was missing about a foot of insulation completely,
Right.
or like had very, very little, a foot leading up to the wall side, right? And he said, and then up to that foot, it wasn't to code, not only to what the builder's standards were, because the builder's standards were a little bit above code,
Yeah.
but it wasn't even to code. So I put that on the list, and then they came and blew in fresh insulation. And actually, now the R rating in that room is more than even what they had as their standard finishes.
Nice.
So that in itself, like if I had to pay somebody to come and check that and do that, that would have been
Well, paid for
probably the
itself.
cost. Yeah, paid for itself. And then a couple of other things with grading. There was a grading issue that I didn't really notice, that he noticed. There were a couple of receptacles that weren't working that I probably wouldn't have checked. There were a number of things. There was probably 10 or 11 things on the list. And out of the 10 or 11, I probably wouldn't have identified 5 or 6 of them. And even to this day, I probably would have missed a couple of them. So, yeah. How come you didn't get one?
I don't know. Just never crossed my mind to do it. At the time, I never even thought of it. I think I remember when I found out about yours. I'm like, oh, I didn't even think of doing that. So there may be lingering issues that could have been resolved that I have no idea about. I don't have never came across any surprises, but I didn't measure the depth of the insulation in the attic, so perhaps it's marginally low. Who knows? But I think even before, going back to what you said about your shower, that's something too that home inspectors aren't looking for because they don't know what you order. But that's something to pay attention to in as well. Is make sure everything that's supposed to be there that you paid for is there, and any adjustments you made to the plan are being done, because those are things that can sometimes easily be missed by people when you've got contractors going from one house to another building the same type of home. They may miss the occasional feature. My dad, in one of his last new construction homes, paid for a gas line to the laundry for the dryer, and when they did the PDI, so drywall's already up, they caught that the gas line was not installed. So before closing, builder went in, opened up the drywall, ran the pipe, closed it up, patched, repaired, sanded, painted everything, and put it in. That would have been a big pain in the butt had it have had to be done after they moved into the house. So that stuff happens. It's good to pay attention to.
Yeah, I had the same thing with my water line to the fridge.
Yeah.
They forgot to put that in. So things get missed. And be nitpicky, right? Like, be picky. Like, I'll give you an example. What do you mean by picky? Well, picky, I picked a certain tile for our laundry room. And that tile, I figured, okay, it's a laundry room. I want it to be bright and light, and there's a window in the room, so want to make it inviting. And I picked a kind of a white tile. It's got a little bit of texture to it, but it's white. And I said, okay, there's not going to be a lot of dirt in the living room or in the laundry room. So I'm going to go with a white grout.
Yeah.
So everything is nice and white and fresh, Well, when I did the walkthrough, what had happened was, I guess they installed the tile and then installed the hardwood floors after.
Okay.
And there were and probably the baseboards. Well, for sure the baseboards, right? They lay the tile down and then do the baseboards on top. Well, what had happened was they didn't properly protect and cover the tiles and the grout in the laundry room. So when they were doing the baseboards and the hardwood floors, you had all this dust and sawdust getting kicked up all over the place. And sawdust attracts dirt, right? Like if you're a contractor and you're walking through in your construction boots,
yeah,
and you're outside and it's muddy or whatever, and now you're walking through the home and you step on the sawdust, that sawdust holds that dirt. Well, sawdust blows around and it got into the grout. So even though they cleaned the home prior to handing over the keys, the grout was not white, and they do not seal the grout, which is actually a good tip for new home owners. The first thing you should do in all of your tiles and all of the grout is seal the grout, because the builders will not do it. And if you want to maintain the look and save yourself a lot of scrubbing or having to replace the grout, seal your grout immediately. Immediately. Anyways,
Backsplash, flooring,
everything.
everything.
Anywhere there's grout in the house, seal it. Get a good sealer. Don't go cheap on it. So go to an actual tile place and get the good stuff. And then do it. Put 2 applications on and do it before it starts getting dirty and there's mildew or
Even
water
just
stains
dirt.
or dirt. Yeah. Anyway, so after they cleaned it, I go into the laundry room and I'm looking at it and I'm going, it's kind of yellowish, right? The white grout, which you had to pay to upgrade to, was yellow. So I put it on my list and I hounded them because when something is not right to your eye and it just bugs you and constantly bugs you,
Yeah.
that was one of those things for me. And I hounded them. So they literally had to come back and the guy was there all day scraping out all of the grout and then regrouted everything with the white grout.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, I paid for white grout. Don't give me dirty
But that's
yellow
good.
grout.
That's something that a lot of people may overlook, right down to how well done the grouting is. Like I have some tiles in my main floor where it was never really done very well, and there were gaps and cracks. I should have complained about that. I didn't.
Yeah.
But those are things to look out for.
Yeah, for sure. And the way things get installed, the way things look, like if your cabinetry is warped, if your doors are warped, that happens often, right?
Yeah.
Because in changing climates, especially from factory
I've got doors that don't shut.
Do you really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
I've just never gotten around to adjusting them, but they probably, so that's a challenge though, because you may not notice those things until you go through seasons where maybe it's more humid than it was when it was installed.
Yeah.
And it's
We're talking about things that's obviously noticeable when you get the keys at closing or just prior to closing.
Yeah.
Right.
But overall, and to answer that person's question, I definitely think it's worthwhile.
Yep. It's a good investment. If you need, you're listening to this, watching this, and you need a referral to a home inspector in your area, we know a bunch that cover most of Southern Ontario. I even know some in Northern Ontario, so we can give you a good referral. I had one done at the cottage. I don't know if that was worth it because I already knew everything was wrong with the place. So I don't know what that confirmed for me or not. Yeah, I think that was
maybe it just gave you you had somebody make a to-do list for you. Saved you some time for sure.
That's true. That's true. Although this particular guy, I didn't know him before or whatever, he was referred to me by another realtor. And it was a pretty basic inspection where he missed a few things like that I caught. I think I hired him because more so for the septic system, because he also inspected the septic system and I didn't want to deal with that. And he was also wet certified because it has a wood stove, and I wanted to make sure that it would be wet certified.
Get the certification. That. You got the inspection, and then the insurance company wanted another one or something.
Yeah. So funny enough, so wood stoves, especially in cottages, oftentimes the insurance company will want to know if it's safe, and there's an inspection. It's a wet inspection. You have to be wet certified to do those. I can't remember what WET stands for.
Wood Energy Transfer Technology.
Yes, I believe you are correct. Thank you. That's very good. So anyways, I get it done just because, being in our industry, you come to learn and understand things. So I got it done with him. He certified it. All's good. And then 2 months after I get the place, I already have the place, right? Insurance company comes back and says, oh, we need to send an inspector to see if your fireplace is, the code and safe and all that. I said, no, you're not sending anybody. And I had it wet inspected. Here's the inspection. And they were fine with that. So, but yeah, otherwise, Like even in my previous house. So I bought a village home, bought that new. There's no basement. There's no backyard. You're attached from 3 sides. How much is there to inspect? So if you're completely oblivious to anything related to plumbing, electrical, insulation, building codes, all of that, and you want peace of mind, yeah, get it done. But like in a condo, what are you going to inspect in a condo?
I remember I had a couple that they were first time home buyers, and we always encourage getting inspections done. They hired I won't say the name because it's a good company, but it's expensive. But they hired a company to do the inspection, and it was a 2-bedroom condo, probably 700-800 square feet, and they paid $800 to get this inspection done. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of money to do an inspection.
Is that inspection company owned by a somewhat famous person?
Perhaps. Anyways, and you could tell the guy he was there, and he was just trying so hard to stretch out the time that he needed to spend because there wasn't a lot.
Inspected it in like a half an hour.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to look at, but worthwhile nevertheless. And they had the peace of mind that everything was okay.
And if, just a side note, if you're buying it as an investment property, if it's not your primary residence, it's actually a deduction at the end of the year, or added to your cost of the property when you dispose of it. So It is an expense to the property, which is nice.
Yeah. So get it done.
Yeah. Why not? Doesn't hurt. Second set of eyes. Get a pro in there if you need a referral recommendation, or if you want to pick our brains. And I have people all the time sending me photos. What do you think of this? Is this legit? Is this right? Should I put it on my warranty? We get those kind of questions all the time, and we're happy to answer them. So send it our way. DM.
We'll drop Ariel's phone number right here.
Hey, unlike most
Google
realtors,
our names, and you can access.
Can Google.
You probably find my home address.
Well, in us, we sold a home just a couple of blocks from us, and they ended up buying the home 2 doors down. So they called us. They said, we want to buy a house in our neighborhood ideally, but we're open to other areas. So the home 2 doors down from them came for sale. They bought it. We listed their home. They sold it. They did very, very, very well. Like the cost for them to upgrade was super. And anyways, I went for a revisit with them to check up on the house that they bought. And we're standing out in the front driveway. And I'm like, I don't know if you guys know where I live. And they're like, oh yeah, just right around the corner, halfway down the street. We know. And it's so funny because you and I have our personalized license plates, and it's actually been a good source of advertising for us. But over the years,
conveniently, we are as we read left to right. You're on the left side, I'm on the right side, so the names line up nicely.
Right. Although we're starting to refer to the company and the team as KT and not full Kormendy Trott as much.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe
time for a new license plate. That's going to be hard to get.
Yeah, we'll have to think of something creative. Anyway, episode 1. What was this? 136.
136. Thanks for tuning in.
The Real Estate Podcast. We'll see you next week.